Hello! I am Laura
I'm Valentina.
and we are going to show you a video.
A little review about North American history.
Enjoy it!
Created using Powtoon.
The first topic is American Renaissance, and we can find some important authors of this period of time, such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Herman Beale, Edgar Allan Poe, Margaret Fuller, and Amos Bronson Alcott. The first author, that is Ralph Waldo Emerson, who founded Transcendental Club and the Dial, that it's a magazine, was an important author of this period. Then he wrote Nature in 1836, then Self-Realized, that was in 1841, it's that to believe in your own thoughts, then The Oversoul in 1841, and finally The Poet in 1844, that it's a complete man. Then we have Henry David Thoreau, who defined transcendentalist movement as a wisdom does not expect it beholds. He refused to pay tax and wrote about his experience in the civil disobedience that has a great influence on Tolstoy and Gandhi. Then wrote Walden, where is the search through wisdom and joyless lives through simple things, and rejects things such as money and possession ordinary decided in life. The next one is Nathaniel Hawthorne, who wrote Celestial Road, that is an ironic story about Christian, the hero of John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Then The Wehrmacht, that it's a mad scientist story. Then The Scarlet Letter in 1850, that it's the study of the effects of the adultery of a Puritan minister. Then we have Herman Melville. His fiction is about good against evil, good against Satan, and the head against the heart, and one of his famous work was Moby Dick in 1851. One of the most recognized authors in American Renaissance was Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote short stories, literary criticism, and poetry. He was interested in psychology and the darker side of the human nature. One of his work was The Fall of the House of Usher, The Black Cat, The Telltale Heart, and The Pit and the Pendulum. Then we have Margaret Fuller. Her work was a powerful call for equal rights for women. And finally, Amos Bronson Alcott, his work, Conversation with Children on the Gospels, in 1836.
Created using Powtoon.
Let's talk about the American Civil War and the Gilded Age. Here we have some important authors like Walt Whitman, Harriet Beecher, Emily Dixon, Sarah Horn, George Washington Cable, Jules Chandler Harris, Bret Hart, and Mark Twain. The most important author is Walt Whitman. He celebrates democracy, nature, love, and friendships. Some important words were Live in the Grass, Black Workplace, Travel Road, and he defined America as a nation with an authentic democracy. The next one we have Harriet Beecher. The most influential words were Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852. Now we have Bret Hart, who provides the moral for the Westerns. The important words was Outcasts of Poker Flat and The Luck of Running Camp in 1868. Mark Twain, the last author in this period of time, was known as a Samuel Langford Climbs. He wrote Life on the Mississippi. That work was inspired in the romantic memories. Also we have the celebrated Jumping Frog, and he filled with the typical Western humor history called Oax.
The next topic is the era of realism and naturalism. We start with naturalism. Its age is based on scientific studies, Darwin's theory, and they studied human beings. In this age was the Industrial Revolution, and there was an economic growth. One of the most important authors was William Dean Howells, who wrote A Modern Instance. Then The Rise of Silas Lapham, that it's about an ordinary, uneducated man who becomes rich in the paints business. Then we have A Hazard of New Fortunes. Then A Travel from Altruria and Through the Eye of Nearly. He began to write utopian novels about an ideal society with perfect justice and happiness. Then the other author was Edward Bellamy, who wrote Looking Backward in 1888. Another author was Émile Zola, that was a French novelist, critic, and political activist. She wrote Les Rogues Macquart and Jacques Cousteau. Then we have Frank Norris, the American novelist who was the first important naturalist writer in the United States. One of his works was The Octopus, A Story of California, The Epic of the Wheat. Then we have Stephanie Frayne. She was influenced by the scientific approach, amazing sympathetic and imagination. She wrote Maggie, a Girl of the Streets, and The Red Badge of the Courage. Then we have Henry Garland. His writing was filled with sympathy. He wrote Main Travel Roads. Then Ellen Glasgow, an American novelist who portrayed the change of the world. One of his work was The Deliverance. Then Theodore Dreiser. His work was Lack of Fear Moral Code. He wrote Sister Carrie, an American tragedy. Finally, we have Jack London, who wrote Call of the Wild. Now, let's talk about realism. It was a reaction to and a rejection of Romanticism. It emphasized on emotion and imagination. Important facts in this period was the Civil War, the urbanization and increased rates of democracy and literacy. One of the important authors on realism was Henry James. The method of him was a stream of consciousness. He was an observer of the mind rather than a recorder of the times. He wrote Roderick Hudson, The American, Daisy Miller, and The Portrait of a Lady. Then we have Edgar Lee Masters, who wrote a Spoon River anthology. And finally, we have Frederick Douglass. He wrote about controversial topics of sexual themes.
Created using Powtoon.
The last topic of this video is Writers of the Lost Generation. We have, of course, different authors. One of them is Scott Fitzgerald. He wrote about the spiritual history in the Lost Generation. The main work was The Side of the Paradise in 1920s. The second was Ernest Hemingway. He wrote The Sun Also Rises and The Farewell to the Arm. Ernest Hamilton was inspired on the psychological realism and symbolistic topics. The next one was John Dos Passos. Dos Passos wrote about three soldiers, one of the most important authors and quotes. Dos Passos showed the relationship between individual and the historical events in that period of time. William Faulkner wrote Soldiers Pay Mosquitoes, also stories about the Sound of the Fears, till about modernism and masterpieces. Cumming was the last but not least author in that period of time. He wrote The Enormous Room and the Six North Lectures. Those books was inspired to attack the war to the government.
That's all. We hope you learn and review something about these topics. See you in the next video. Bye bye.
What you trying to do to me? Well, can't we talk it over? I thought we had a better understanding. Oh, baby, don't be so chippy. You don't want to see me cry. Oh, baby, please. It isn't fair. You don't want me to cry no more.
Created using Powtoon.